The next live Q&A episode for the Slightly Serious Sign podcast is going to be January 19th for our 100th episode, and we want you to submit your questions. So go to wensco.com/Q&A and submit your questions. You can submit them like text like you did before, but now there's a section where you can submit an audio question. So record your questions, send them in, and we'll play them live on air for the podcast January 19th. And we want you there, and we want your questions. So join us January 19th by submitting your questions, wensco.com/Q&A. This episode is brought to you by Arlon Graphics, trusted for innovative high-performance cast vinyls. Check out their newest product, DPF V9500, a non-PVC polyurethane wall film built to tackle ultra-textured surfaces like a pro. More exciting new products to come soon from Arlon. Check them all out at Wensco.com.
From Grand Rapids, Michigan, it's the Slightly Serious Sign Podcast, starring Mike Hall, with his co-host Tyler Hall, and their sometime sidekick, Domingo Tobar. We invite you to join the show with today's relevant sign industry guest. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Mikey! Hey-o!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 95 of the Slightly Serious Sign Podcast.
Tyler screwed it up.
Yeah. Thanks for rating
No,
and
it's
reviewing.
95.2.
Yeah,
95.2 now.
This is the second time we've done this ever in the life of this podcast, so I don't feel quite as bad about it. We do have most of it recorded. We just didn't do the intro, apparently. So.
We didn't have Rick. Tyler screwed it up. That's facts.
Yeah, it's on me. There's too many things to look at one time, and I get nervous about it. And then in the middle, I looked over and was like, I think that thing's supposed to say recording now, and it doesn't. So if you hear like a random cut in the middle of this episode and we just keep talking, that's what happened.
That'll be a sponsor.
Yeah.
Sponsor plug.
Yeah, so anyways, so yeah, this is part 2 of us talking about HP. So we're here, obviously not in the podcast studio. HP was nice enough to have us come down to the
Graphics Experience Center.
I did know at this time, but it felt like I should have
Yeah, he said he answered it that way last time.
So we're outside of Atlanta, Georgia here. We came down. We shot 8 videos yesterday, so you're going to see a bunch on the 630, 730, 830, R530, R1000, 2000, and FS series.
That's pretty impressive.
So,
and even some of the...
And software. Assuming we get that done.
He's just waiting for us outside. Look at him. He's waiting.
Yeah, he's just waiting for us to get done. He saw us like wrap up, and then was like, "Oh, it's my turn," and then we started again. So you're gonna see a bunch of videos over the next weeks and weeks on HP for us. So we learned a lot. If I hadn't done that, I don't think we could have done this podcast today. I wouldn't have even known what to ask. HP is obviously new for us, which you talked about. You guys will hear it in like 20 minutes, but you talked about it 10 minutes ago for us. That's super new for us, right? We're super familiar with EcoSolvent, UV, even dye sublimation, to be honest, probably more familiar than latex. So it was cool to come and see it all. If you have, Domingo said it last time, but if you have the option to come out and see this facility.
If you come out to the Learning Center or the Graphics Center here, HP has every single printer that is... It's just amazing to walk through and see the versatility of everything that they are printing on. And it gives you a great opportunity to understand that people that are just doing banners and decals, there's so much more you can do with these printers. And it just opens up your eyes to all the things that you can really do.
Yeah, 100%. So if you want to go ahead, introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do here? How long have you been in the industry?
And you forgot to mention your kids last time. So.
Yeah, we need to know about your family.
You have kids, right?
I do.
You forgot all about them.
Yeah,
you didn't ask me about them.
Well, you have to include that.
Yeah, and your family and stuff. You forgot
tell us about yourself,
it says
John.
it here in my notes. It just didn't come out of my mouth.
Jeez. All right.
Yeah, so go again.
John, tell us who you are.
And talk about your family this time. They're important.
They are. So John Stevens, I have been at HP coming up on 16 years. It'll be 16 years in March. I'm the Director of Sales for North America. So last time we explained to Domingo, that meant the U.S. and Canada. So we do both. Not Mexico.
That's horrible.
Sorry. But I've been in the sign industry, started selling Sparcal vinyl in 1991 in South Florida. That's where I'm from. Used to have a distribution company down there. So I've been doing this a long time. And the whole evolution of cut vinyl into printing, aqueous printing, then solvent printing, then eco-solvent, and then latex in 2008. Was exposed to it back then as a Roland dealer, right? And saw it for the first time, and then actually joined HP in 2010. Been married for 26 years. I'm from South Florida, still live down there. I have an amazing wife and 3 kids. My oldest daughter just got married. So we were talking about this last night, right? I'm 10 years older than your dad, but my son's 1 year younger than your youngest. So got a late start. But 24-year-old daughter in Gainesville just got married, and a 22-year-old daughter in Tallahassee. So we had a house divided flag this weekend. And then my son's 20, and he's over in Fort Myers in school. So
Nice.
That was much better than the first time.
thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
You did a good job.
Oh, and my
Yeah.
dog. I got shout out to Brody.
There you go.
Who's my
That's
best
important too.
Brody?
friend.
You got a grandson named Brody.
All right.
He's a problem.
Yeah.
He's not a problem. He's one of the funniest kids I've ever met. He looks like he's in trouble all the time. He's just
Yeah.
smiling. That he was a Chucky for Halloween. He's carrying around a Chucky knife. And he's just smiling like that big smile on his face, just holding that knife.
He is also a very big kid. That's for sure. And I
He's
thought
just like his
my-
dad, actually.
And I thought my kids were big when they were
All
kids.
he wants to do is sit on a couch and eat chips.
He can eat so much food. It's unbelievable. My kids don't eat any food at all, so it's totally different. But anyway, so we're talking about kind of what makes HP HP. I think is kind of the main thing for this podcast. So I talked about it, whatever, an hour ago now. But the two things that we hear when we're talking about latex is eco-friendly and instant lamination. Those are pretty much the only two things that customers bring up when we were selling. I'll say from this perspective, when we sold only eco-solvent and UV, those were what they would bring to us, right? Be like, we looked at the HP. These are the two things that we took away. What do you guys have to offer, type of thing. So I was saying, what else do you think there is outside of that the HP brings?
Yeah, so I think we kind of just ended the last one where I went through that acronym that we used to use all the time. But if you go back to the very beginning of latex in 2008, there were 3 pillars. So HP is always talking about a value proposition as a way to try to explain what the benefit of a product or a solution is. And the 3 things we used to say from day one was versatility, which is I think we talked about it later about just walking through here and seeing all the different stuff you can print. Now, we understand the U.S. market is primarily a pressure-sensitive vinyl and PVC-based banner and vinyl market. However, the ability to print and do so many other different applications, with one ink set, by the way, same ink set, there was always I think probably more important. Ease of use, the fact that there was no maintenance relative to if you go back to, solvent and UV, and the fact people just couldn't understand that you didn't have to do anything to the printer at night and didn't have to do anything in the morning, just leave it on. And then sustainability. Yeah, I mean, that's been a core pillar from day one. It always will be. It's a huge pillar at HP. But I think what we were saying earlier is what we used to laugh about is and that's really selling, right? I mean, we're doing all the talking, but selling is really about listening and understanding what your customers need or want. So when people say, "Hey, tell me about latex," the question should be, "Well, what do you want to do? What are you trying to do?" If sustainability is not important to them, okay, we don't have. We're not forcing you to eat a veggie burger. You don't have to do it. It's in the box. If you ever want to use it one day, it's going to be there. I mean, the fact that you're printing with a water-based ink, the fact that we have all these recycling programs. The other thing we didn't get into before, though, is the other thing about sustainability is, it's kind of like what we learned from the election many years ago is like you're not entitled to your own facts, but you're entitled to your own opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts. So when you talk about sustainability, there's certifications. It's just like durability. Well, solvent's more durable than latex. I don't know. Go ask 3M what it says. What does the 3M chart say? What does the Avery chart say? It doesn't matter what I say. Go look at what they say. So sustainability, yeah, it's part of it, but we're not going to force you. It's in the box. But I think if I go back to what I was saying earlier, the thing that catapulted latex to the number 1 position in 2014 is really became, so if I talk about versatility, ease of use, and green or sustainable, the 3 things that came out of Gen 3 and we've been running with is what we would call PDQ, productivity, which part of that is instant lamination, right? Because I've been doing it a long time, and when somebody, one of our competitors would say, well, you should wait 24 hours. What do you think most people told us? Well, I don't wait 24 hours. We only wait 6. And I'm like, well, 6 is still a long time. Ours has been 0 from day one, never changed. And we also, I think the big thing that changed about productivity was, when the other analogy we used to make all the time is you try to explain to your kid, the Corvette speedometer goes to 240 miles an hour, but nobody drives it that way, right? That's not real. And same when printing. People, the max speed on the printer is 1,000. You don't print that way. So the ability to print indoor quality at production speeds, in Gen 3 and certainly the 500 series put us in this spot where, okay, we've checked that box about being productive. It's not a trade-off. The durability point about the certifications we have in Gen 3 inks, although they're water-based. And then the quality issue, right? That we kind of talked about that in the printhead thing. I mean, the fact that we have more nozzles, and then the invention. We didn't even talk about last time what optimizer is and why we did what we did with optimizer. So when you add all that up together, that value proposition of like the ability to do that kind of image quality with no trade-offs in durability or productivity, have a sustainable option with a much easier printer to use. But I still would come back to, if you said, all right, John, you got to pick one. I still think versatility, and especially with the white now, I think the versatility, okay, do what you're doing now. I mean, what do you do now? I just do vinyl and banner. Okay, I can do that. I think I do it better. Here's why. But my gosh, you can do so much other stuff with one printer and one ink set. That's probably what I would say.
I think what we've found to be true is that you guys gave your numbers on print speed when we were doing the videos yesterday. You'll see them in our video where we run through on everything's print speed, right? The numbers you guys give are, I will just say, like lower than what we see from the other ones. But we can tell you for a fact that we've tested the numbers that the other print manufacturers give them, and they are usually wildly exaggerated. I don't know how they get the numbers they come up with in the first place, but what I can say, when we saw your guys' printers run yesterday, and the print quality that you get at those speeds it's not comparable to what the other ones are giving out, right? When they're like, oh, on draft mode, I can get 1,000 square feet an hour. Be like, okay, one, nobody, not even people doing yard signs are printing on draft mode. It looks that bad. And two, that speed is not accurate. Like, it's when we've run the test, we give it the best material to run as fast as it can. We run it on whatever, 2 pass, 1 pass is what it looks like. Run on 1 pass. We don't get those speeds. Like the speed you're saying, like the head doesn't move that fast. I don't know how you're getting those numbers. So what I can say is, after seeing it yesterday, is like the numbers you guys give are like realistic. Like I was making yard signs on any of the printers that we looked at, roll to roll or hybrids. That speed you gave me is the speed that it comes out at, and it would be very passable to give off. I mean, honestly, past yard signs even. So I do think that might be different as well in terms of, you'll hear him say it at the end, but HP is an engineering company. I think that's what it comes down to, right? You're not a sales and marketing company, meaning the numbers that you're giving us are like, okay, we've done the test, we've run the numbers. This is the exact speed that we can get out of the machine, and it will be accurate, which is the same on when he gives board speed, right? Even when we were doing the video yesterday, and I was like, okay, give it in board speed. He's like, well, it kind of depends. I was like, okay, well, what number do you give? He's like, well, we give this number. He goes through and explains the whole thing. And we're talking about it in terms of like, if you're trying to get this video in 2 minutes, you talked about it too with HP, like, well, how long do you have? Do you have 30 seconds or you have an hour, right? Like if you're trying to get it in 2 minutes, there's so much nuance in latex that I think trying to sum it all down is usually where people are like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And you'd be like, well, it's a lot more to explain, right? We do things very different here compared to everyone else. And I think that's interesting.
Well, I think, the way that the ink gets put down, I mean, quite honestly, is, like we didn't even mention in the whole white thing about micro recirculation and all this other stuff that goes on within that printer. But at the end of the day, it's the output, right? And I can just think of an example. This January, we took a very large brand that you would know over to Barcelona. They do a lot of canvas and wall covering. And they're used to running the printer they have in 4-pass, which is a printer we built, an older technology. And so we showed them 4-pass with, new inks, Gen 4 inks, 50% more pigment. So, so the bottom line was, well, wait a minute, can you run it in 3-pass? And what we were doing in 3-pass was as good as what they were doing in 4-pass. So the benefit came from the productivity, came from the innovations in the ink, the print and how we lay down the ink. But at the end of the day, it's all about them looking at it going, oh my gosh, that's as good as what we're selling now or better. And so there's a productivity gain without a trade-off, right? So
we would also love to show you, we ran a test on 2 different, I won't say anything about who it was, but we ran 2 different tests on 2 different printers. on the same print modes according to their standards. And when you put them side by side, they're not the same. So when you're saying, if I'm looking at a spec sheet and I'm comparing these apples to apples, right? 4-pass versus 4-pass, here's the print speeds. And you're like, well, this one's faster. Be like, well, have you looked at them? Like, have you like put them side by side on the same settings? And they won't look the same. And I think like when we've seen everything that HP has here, I think that's what you need to be like, is like, don't look at the spec sheet, right? Just like physically run them side by side. Time it on your phone for all I care, like, and get an actual time on how long it's going to take you to produce it, and then put them side by side and see which one you'd rather give to your customer.
But that's why I always laugh about either coming here or going to trade shows. It's not like they're like, okay, I'll be right back, and they go behind the curtain and then come back out. And like they're doing it in front of you. So the printer's capable of doing these things, but you are right about that, because when we say indoor quality, what does that even mean? Right? What is that? Like if somebody says that's what we ordered last night, I asked the waiter, is this spicy? Yeah, it's spicy. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like spicy to him is like
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's
Is it
interesting.
sellable? You got to also look at that.
That's
way.
is that sellable quality? Is
sellable
draft
quality?
speed on X printer sellable quality? It is not sellable quality.
If it's
right?
far enough up in the air,
Yeah, if it's 50 feet away, it's sellable. Yeah, you're right. Or
It's on
100
a
miles
highway.
an hour.
or
yeah.
in my case, if it's really close to me.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Also
Can't see it
depends on
anyways.
age, stage dependent. The other question that I think has come up is,
This is how many questions we missed.
it's just the print head one. That's all that's left here.
oh wow.
The other one that came up is the degradation of the print heads. People claiming that on latex, you're going to get issues where the heads, the quality of the ink goes down as the heads degrade, and then you replace the head, they go back, and then it fades. And there's people claiming that, well, if you're doing a fleet, by the time you get to the end of the fleet, the first one won't match the last one if you did them, weeks apart. And I said, I don't think we've seen this issue, but what does HP say about in terms of that conversation coming up?
So it's to really understand. And we get into this at the end too, right? So what did we invent as an ink company, as one of the world's largest ink companies, if not the world's largest ink company? We invented this thing called latex ink, which is a water-based ink, right? With a synthetic resin copolymer, which we call latex, which makes it durable. And we're on our 4th generation of that. Alongside that, to deliver that, is HP invented this thing called a thermal inkjet printhead. The nozzle count in a thermal, that little plastic, it's so funny. People like, it's this dumb little plastic head, but that dumb little plastic head at one point had 2,112 nozzles. There's more now. I think there's 50% more nozzles in a Gen 4 head. So what we were trying to explain before is piezo has much less heads. There's in that thermal inkjet printhead, it is a consumable. It's designed to, to be consumed. But what people don't understand is not all the nozzles are being used all the time from the get-go. There's a thing in there called the optical drop detector, which is technically a little laser it's testing all 14. Now the number's much higher. I think the way we used to say it is it tests all 14,000 nozzles in like 40 seconds or 27 seconds. And there's an algorithm that will replace bad nozzles with good nozzles. So it's refreshing the printhead constantly. It's not a constant, it doesn't go like that. So eventually, it is also a computer. It will tell you, hey, replace this printhead. But the printheads don't all die at the same time because they're all used at different levels. Like you might not use light cyan, light magenta they could go for a year, right? So they're based on usage. It will identify when it's reached a image quality that it's determined is not good. It will tell you to replace it. So you should not experience this like graph that goes like that. Because of this replacing of nozzles, it should be fairly consistent until it gets to the point where, okay, I can't deliver this quality anymore. That's what the optical drop detector does. Whereas piezo, and we talked about this.
Yeah, we talked about it
Piezo
earlier.
head's a fixed head. So there's always this thing, people always talked about cost per copy. Very few people get into TCO, total cost of ownership. So part of, if you're going to, I'm going to own this solvent printer for 5 years. Well, you're going to replace the printheads, right? And the best quality is day one because that printhead's slowly dying, where ours, because of this, the number of nozzles, the way we manage nozzle replacement, it won't look like that. It will slowly go down, but then it will go back up. But I think the other issue you brought up though also had to do with, I think in earlier versions, and this is when I just mentioned this word micro recirculation and people are like, what? It's a thing. You can't even see it. The human eye can't see it. You have to see it through a microscope. Printheads heating up would cause a challenge in previous generations where when the printhead would get hot, it would change the size of the drop. So then you're putting down different amounts of ink and would cause color shift. That's been addressed with Gen 4 print heads, which have micro recirculation in them, which keep the print heads cooler. Plus, we're printing on a much cooler temperature. So again, some of this stuff is like, we mentioned it earlier. I don't know the right phrase for it, but it's literally like, it's kind of like if somebody were to say, oh, I wouldn't, I won't buy a Tesla. I think the range is only 100 miles. And you're like, dude, that was like 9 years ago, right? Like they've solved that.
I don't know. They might not have solved that.
I don't know. But I mean, that's where when we say, like, again, I think when I say later in this podcast about storytelling and making sure you guys understand the story is what was different between Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, and where we are in Gen 4. And it's not just ink. It's about the printheads too are a big part of that story and also the curing system and whatnot. So, all these things in the past were completely fair. Like the other big thing on Gen 3 was the overcoat that was in the Gen 3. Amazing innovation that provided durability. Matter of fact, probably the most durable ink set ever built was Gen 3. Like you talk about stickers, go print on Gen 3 uncountered vinyl. I don't care what you put on it. You can't hurt it. One of the problems, though, is the more ink you put down, the more overcoat you put down, which is kind of a waxy substance. So you would see cases if you're a wrap guy. If you're a sticker guy, it's amazing. If you're a wrap guy that wants to laminate, it can cause an adhesion challenge. So how did they engineer that out in Gen 4? We separated the overcoat. It's its own channel now. So you control the amount of overcoat you put down. So if you're a wrap guy now, you don't use overcoat because guess what? You're laminating, right? If you're a sticker guy, you still use it. So things like that, when people bring that up, yeah, it's important to acknowledge it, but also explain what we did about it and what's changed.
One thing that I wanted to add was on the print heads is that, how normally a print head it's just basically a circle and it's just dropping ink. That's all it's doing. But with the new technology, Gen 4, now it's got an infinity head. So basically those dots, it's like an 8. And it drops dead center, so it's a perfect drop every single time. So it doesn't have that clogging as much problem that all the piezo heads have. Because remember when we talked about piezo, like you said, start from the beginning, and then as time goes down, it's going to just basically wear down, and then you have to replace that head. And the same thing with HP, it's going to go, but at a very slower rate. And then as you get down, you just basically replace the head, you're back to square one with the same color. So those are some of the things.
It is a shame that the print head's only this big and it's $125 or whatever because people don't appreciate. So what he's talking about is the head, the nozzle shape now is elliptical because it eliminates the amount that, like if you look at under a microscope, anybody's inkjet, it's a drop, but there's always satellite drops. Yep. So when they hit and splat, that's when you talk about the clarity or crispness of a print, it's got to do with the splat, and having an elliptical head, allows us to control the satellites better.
I think what it comes down to is if people just do what the machine tells them they need to do, usually they work. And this obviously is true in latex in terms of when it comes up and says, hey, you need to replace the print head. If you're trying to well, I don't have one right now, so maybe let it get on order. Maybe next week I'll replace it. And then you print for that week. And then you print another job and you're like, no, it looks a little different. Be like, well, yeah, you probably should have replaced it a little sooner, when it told you. And I think that just goes across the board for all printers, right? Like if you just do what the printer tells you to do, which again, like we said,
daily maintenance,
you can check that. So just know that if you come and claim that your printer's not working, we can check all those things. So just be aware. But if they just do what the machine tells them to do, especially with the newer technology, it typically just will do what it needs to do. So I think that's good. But the next question we went to, I'll just say it because I think that's when I hit record. So I don't know if it got me saying the question. But so if you hear a weird cut after I say the question, it's because we already recorded this after I said the question. But do you think there's still issues with media availability on latex compared to eco-solvent UV?
Cooking is an art, baking is a science. And that's why most dudes can't bake, right? Because if you ever watch the Food Network and you watch Guy Fieri and they're throwing salt and they throw pepper and they throw, right? You watch Martha Stewart bake, it's like chemistry class, like an eighth of a teaspoon. And guys like him go they're doing this.
Listen, I live on the model. Precision and safety just cost you time. That's life model right there.
So the reason I'm bringing that up is the one trade-off when we talked about, hey, this one ink set, this one printer can print all the stuff you're seeing in the building, but the recipe matters. And if you came out of solvent where you only had two profiles, banner and vinyl, and that's the cooking guy, right? Anybody can cook. If you have olive oil, good olive oil, salt and pepper, you can cook as a dude, right? Or a woman, doesn't matter. But that's why, but latex was a little bit like baking. Like if you're not going to pick the right recipe, you're going to get a bad result. And we used to see that, and even though we would say from day one, there's 574 certified media. So I don't think it's a thing anymore. I mean, it is. I used to say this a lot about latex. You know what? One of the greatest things about that printer you just bought, it'll print on just about anything. Like, so yesterday, Missy showed you a natural fiber. Like latex will print on natural fibers, not just synthetic, not polyesters, natural fibers. You can throw it in there. Burlap, you could throw it in there. Now, is it as easy as just hit and go on the microwave? Like how many, here's a good question for you. Like here you go. How many microwaves did they ever make? It says fish, chicken, all this other, whoever does that? Nobody. They just press go. And that's how most guys print. So
I use the popcorn bucket, the popcorn button.
But if you use the popcorn button to do not, right? So that's one thing we would say about latex is, it can, the great thing is it can do all this other stuff. The bad thing is it can do all this other stuff, because if you're not going to pick the right recipe, you could have a bad interaction. I think to answer your question though, I think in Gen 4 now with the 730s and 830s, we've really gone away from very media specific profiles to back to generics, which sounds like a weird thing, but that they've just dialed in these things over so many years that they're back to just generics.
You're using lower heat, so now it can really print on anything.
Now that, you didn't have that in your list, but that was certainly a criticism of latex from day one.
Day one
was the temperature that we used to cure it was, that they changed all this in Gen 4, but it was I used to use it was over 240 degrees, but it was ambient heat. It was like a coil, so you could burn your forehead, you would melt vinyl if you didn't get the temperature right. In Gen 4, it switched to hot air, and over the generations, that's a big thing about media compatibility that's changed a lot, is the temperatures have come way down. So that was, that was a thing. That's another thing I think, and I've often said this, Tyler, we're really not, and I've told a lot of people this, we're not a good marketing company. No offense to our marketing organization. HP is really at its core is an engineering company, right? Bill and Dave were engineers. We engineer solutions. I don't know that we're good at marketing it. And so the one thing I would always say is that, they've engineered from day one all the things about the technology, like, okay, we don't like this, we don't like this. This is a problem, guys. This is a problem. They've just engineered solutions, but I just don't think we're really good at communicating it, quite honestly. And but that's been a big change. So what I mean by that is, there's still these things that people. I forget the fancy word for it, but somebody will bring up something from like that happened like 9 years ago, and you're like, yeah, guy, that was like 9 years ago. If it's true, if you fly too close to the sun, the plane's going to melt. And I'm like, wait, where are you getting that from? Right?
Yeah, get over it, right? So many people.
Sorry to interrupt you guys, but I just want to take a minute to talk about Nakusa, the name behind R-Tape. R-Tape's the #1 application tape out there, but they are more than just tape now. Nakusa has a full range of products out there. Their new one is called NextBond. This is a UV cured adhesive. Why does that matter? It's an eco-friendly and durable option, but comparable to most of the eco-friendly options, this is a cost-effective product. So if you're looking for an eco-friendly product or a durable product, or just in general a good vinyl, NextBond is going to be the one for you. This is available at Wensco.com as well as all of their other products. So check it out at Wensco or reach out if you have any questions. Oh, and don't forget to use your Nakusa bucks. Have you heard about Metamark? Metamark is a company that sells premium graphic solutions for commercial and fleet signage. So whether that's walls or it's vehicles or it's tables or doors, we loved it so much we put it all over the podcast studio. So you can check it out on our videos or at Wensco.com.
Back to your original question, Tyler, though, like we've seen the industry change where it's in years past, if you had a new vinyl, like we'd bring them in a roll that they could print to make sure it prints and then they'd apply it. That's not the case anymore, right? Like you've seen the samples 100%. Now, they're all pre-printed because everything prints, right? And everything kind of looks good. I mean, some look way better than others, but like it wasn't a fact of like, is it going to stick to the vinyl? Like it was, 10 years ago, whether it's EcoSolve or latex or whatever, it was always like, okay, we got to see if it prints first. Now, it's not the case. All technology is enough where unless it's some vinyl you never heard of, then probably should print
But there are variables. Like I think that question, we're talking, it's kind of funny. We're talking about this and not really addressing rigid, because latex in 2018 went to rigid with the R series, and there can be the same thing with ACM or acrylics, rather. Is it extruded acrylic? Is it cast acrylic? Mm-hmm. And again, the average consumer maybe doesn't know that, and that can have an impact on adhesion. But
even glass, some glass will print, some glass needs adhesion, promotion. Right. You need to test some of that stuff on whether it's UV or it's latex or whatever it might be. You got to test some of that
I can tell you, when you print on cardboard, I tell you what, solvent will eat that up. It'll eat it up. You have to bleep that out.
But no, 100%. I mean, nobody asks when a new vinyl comes out, like, oh, can I print this on my printer? Like, it just doesn't even come up as a question anymore. But I think people still have that. They're conditioned to think like, oh, I need to check if it's latex compatible. And from what we've seen now, like if with any new vinyl that comes out, right, it's almost universally compatible.
Yeah.
There's some that are maybe for whatever reason latex is included, for whatever reason UV is included on there, but for the most part, they work pretty universally.
Nobody looks for that line anymore.
No,
you used to look for that line. Oh, what's it print on? There was a line at the bottom of every
Yeah.
media. Nobody looks at that line anymore. They just know what's going to print.
So I just bring it up to know that it's definitely come up before where someone's like, oh, I have this printer. What can I print on? And be like, I mean, nobody ever asked me this anymore. So I guess I'll go double check that it works. But
I guess it could still be an issue. I mean, these guys, so when like what you saw yesterday, I mean, you went back there today. You're welcome to go back there today. There's a lot of samples that get sent here. There's guys going to write a check for $300,000 and they're doing a certain application. They want to validate that it'll work. And so there's a lot of pallets of stuff that come in here, and I advocate for that. But in general terms, I mean, all the normal stuff that you guys sell every day. And by the way, that's why we also dealers, are part of our program, have to have demo units because we want you guys to be the subject matter experts and do it for yourself. So if you're selling your own version of vinyls, I mean, you guys really should be the ones saying, hey, this is the best way to dial it in.
Well, our Alpha 6 mil, I dialed that in. Did a profile and everything on the 730. She's up and running. She's printing like a charm.
I think it just looks great pretty much across the board. It's pretty easy now. But so when we go to some of the hybrid options that are out there, where do you think latex is kind of different from UV that's out there in terms of printing on rigid substrates?
Well, I think the the biggest thing, and again, you can go fact check this, but most UV inks don't have a very good outdoor durability rating relative to solvent or latex. So if that's important, that's one issue. Flexibility, right? The flexibility of the ink. That's where, again, other printers have multiple ink sets. Well, what do you want to do? Do you want adhesion or do you want flexibility? But you can't have both. In our case, that's not the case. I think the thing about the R series, we used to say this about latex too in the beginning, because piezo in the beginning, if you go back to this is 15 years, the great thing about solvent printing when it came out, relative to doing 9 pieces of vinyl to do it was, certainly from an efficiency point of view, from a production point of view, but nobody ever said solvent printing had super high image quality. It was cheap and it was durable and it stuck to anything. Okay. When latex first came out, it came out of the DesignJet side of HP, right? So you had indoor quality. We used to say this all the time. It's indoor quality with outdoor durability, because that's another thing that was always like, same thing about, well, is it good for you? Well, then it can't be very good, right? Is this hamburger really? Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was the same way. It's indoor quality. It can't be durable. And that's what happened with rigid when we took latex to rigid. So again, thermal inkjet, the R series, thermal inkjet with a water-based ink onto rigid. It was like offset print quality on rigid. And so right away, the thing was it can't be durable, but durability. And the thing I showed you yesterday was the image quality, right? Like the fact that it does not smear over or cover the substrate. So again, if you're doing 10,000 election signs, I'm not sure it matters, right? Yard signs, Jimmy's car wash. Does it really matter? Probably not. But certainly what you see back there printing on very expensive substrates, nice aluminums, brushed aluminums or woods or things or to the core space. The fact that it keeps the integrity of the substrate is a huge thing. So, I mean, we just thought, again, we're not going to do UV or solvent. We're not going to do piezo. And the fact that we were able to take that into the rigid space with the R series, that's going on 8 years ago. But I think the most exciting thing that just happened is the R530, which we went back to the space that we used to dominate, which was the sub $100,000 hybrid space with a small footprint, right? We kind of got away from that for a little while. And that printer, the ability, and they don't even call it hybrid. It was really smart at Drupa when we had that printer at Drupa in a dark room. And they really started coining the phrase all-in-one, because you could make the argument with that printer, and most guys that have a flatbed, even though it's hybrid, always have a roll-to-roll, right? Mm. You can make the argument with the 530. It's so easy to switch it that, do you need both? maybe not. But that's certainly from an image quality point of view, intelligence, ease of use,
footprint.
Yeah, that printer has been a huge home run for us, and we still have the R series. I mean, the bigger ones, 98-inch, whatever. But that 530 has been tremendous.
The one of the first things that we noticed, not here, but when we got our demo unit in, it was one of the first things when Mark ran the demo and they came and set it up, and we printed off some acrylic samples. One of the first things they printed off on rigid, and when the white ink came off the machine, and even Mark saw, as soon as I walked in, I saw it and I was like, that is insane, because when we're used to, very familiar with the UV flatbed space, right? And the white point is white, I guess. This is the best way I can put it.
After seeing it, like the picture behind Domingo there, it's the UV space, the one we had in our demo room that we sold forever, was not white compared to like their white. Their white's actually white.
When you flood white on the back of an acrylic on latex, like if you haven't seen it and you haven't compared that side by side with, I mean, you can put it up against any of the UV ones that are out there. You're not even in the same, they're not even playing in the same realm. Like it is so unbelievably white. And then I just noticed that just from printing aspect, right? Before we'd even talked about anybody here. And then one of the first things we do when we get back to when they go and show us all the samples on all the printers that are back there that we sell, the first ones are all up against the window. And she makes a point that like, yeah, we put all of our white ink samples up against the window because we know that typically speaking, UV ink will yellow over time if you put it out in the sun. And so we leave them here by the window to show you that these are all still white. And sure enough, they're all very, very white. So that's the thing that we notice. Do you see that being a big draw for people that are doing acrylic, or do you think they just are like flood white is flood white? We don't really care what it looks like.
Yeah, that's it gets back to the comment I made earlier about, I can talk really fast and, it's not going to change at this point in my life. And I used to do a lot of, like somebody'd say, there's 147 slides in this deck. And I'm like, well, somebody asked me to prepare like what I think is important for you to know about latex. And so you asked me the question so that it takes me 147 slides. Now, is everything in that deck? So for example, what we said earlier, if sustainability is not important to you, we'll cut those decks out. But one of the things was when we came out with white in 2018, it wasn't just that the white was white because UV ink has UV inhibitors in it, and that causes that ink to yellow, and the white point's not good to begin with. But this is the kind of these little details that used to crack me up. So historically speaking, you say white, people run like, oh my God, it's a pain in the ass. The maintenance a nightmare, kills print heads. All true, all true. And again, I sold solvent printers with white many years ago and put them in and took them out because it's a pain, right? What did we say from day one? Well, we said we have the whitest white. Number two, by the way, and this is the other irony to me about it when people want to do this. When we sit here, whether we want to argue, is it 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, and we want to get into these arguments about color and about durability and warranties, nobody's white was ever outdoor warrantied. So here I have a white printer. Oh, but by the way, it's not durable. Our white was the same as the other colors. There was no asterisk on that, which again, here's a little nugget that so many people missed. It's a durable white, so you can put it outside, won't yellow. But the biggest thing, and you should look this up, or maybe you can look it up, but the technology behind the ink system and how it's the printheads can come out when you're not using the white, and you can park them in this rotation chamber, and the white circulates and never stops. Because the other thing about white that makes it white is the titanium dioxide. So it has to spit that constantly, or the printheads will just clog up. That's historically the problem with everybody's white. Ours, this stuff just circulates and you're never spitting white. You're not wasting white, right? So, and it's on demand white. So many people, when they hear that, they go, oh, it's interesting, but. And it's like, well, we think we've solved that. You can buy a white printer and not use the white from day one. You can perk the heads and run it. And now the ink will, has a shelf life of a year. So eventually you probably have to replace the ink. But it's just like what I said earlier about, I don't know. I mean, it's when people would come to you and it's like I would never be a good marriage counselor, right? But it's like when people go on and on about something, and then you say, "Okay, do you want me to listen? Do you want me to be a listener? Or do you actually want me to try to help you solve this?" And because if you just want to bitch, I'm a good listener and I'll let you bitch. But if you want me to help you, so when people bitch about margins or bitch about commoditization of this industry, and I'm like, "Do you ever use the white in your printer?" No, nobody ever asked me. I'm like, okay. I mean, but I mean, you could put clear vinyl in there. You could put clear static cling in there. So I think it's a little bit of that. But yeah, we think we've solved that. I mean, even all the way down. I mean, think about it. That's another little thing that kind of cracks me up. Even the 630, which is our entry point. So what are you talking about? A $20,000 printer. You can get a $20,000 printer, and it's the same white ink.
Yeah.
So the white ink that's in the $300,000 printer is the same white ink that's in the $20,000 printer. So if you want to dabble in white, you don't even have to worry about, okay, put it in. If you don't want to do it from day one, take the print heads out, put them in the rotation chamber, and then, run your ink jobs on Friday. But it's a little bit about most things in life. I mean, somebody recognizes opportunities and goes and sells. If you just want to take orders on stuff, you're probably going to be participating in a pool of low margin type stuff versus the guys that recognize opportunities or say yes to things, right? Like that's the other thing that always cracks me up about this business is the consumer. Like, so we'll go back to Mike and I were talking about, I grew up in the restaurant business. He spent time in the restaurant business. You talk about the front of the house and the back of the house, right? And we say this a lot at HP. Like, not everybody cares about how the sausage is made. Like, I don't want to know. I just want to order it. And like, well, do you want to know how I don't care, right? Like the Franklin barbecue tour, like could care less. Just want to know how, I just want to eat the brisket, right? And that's the same thing with people that consume signage. The actual end user has no idea how the stuff is made. So if I was a graphics producer, I'm not even going to say sign shop, why would you not want to show people what the capabilities are? And it's, like I just went through this, my daughter got married. I mean, all the stuff in this marriage industry, all these little tchotchkes and all the customization people want and all the cool, and my wife did a lot of it. And, actually, they started a whole theme. They made T-shirts called Cricket Widow because my wife had a cricket. A shout out to the cricket. But like all the little tchotchkes they were doing for the wedding, that's a whole industry in itself, right? And the margins are enormous, right? Based on, she'd say, well, either I can do this or I'm like, why are you staying up till 3 a.m? Well, I can either do it ourselves or I can order it online for $4,000, right? And like the margins are huge. And so people make fun of tchotchkes or make fun of little things like that. But, if you can figure out, if you have the technology already, like I said, that most cases people have done the hard part. So, it just depends on what you want to say yes to. I think white is an amazing opportunity. I do.
Well, I was just going to say that, you talk about white. He has a point. White is not, in our industry, white has not been a very successful venture for customers. A lot of maintenance, a lot of issues, you got to, if you have white on a flatbed, you better be printing something every day, but not with HP. And I think that when you're at shows, it's the same thing. You bring up white, they've been through that problem.
Well, even us on this podcast have talked about the fact that we will steer people away from white unless they're going to use it regularly when they're buying EcoSolvent. Like we've had those exact conversations. Right. Those manufacturers know that we're having those conversations. They know we're saying like, if you're going to use it every week, sweet, let's do it. If you're not, I don't even want to put it in your printer. I'm not going to deal with the headache on our side. And it's funny too, when, like you said, they've been doing this a long time. The guys that you guys have in the back here doing the demos, right? And sometimes they'll just brush through something because they've done this 1,000 times, right? Then they're just thinking like, yeah, this is just normal procedure, right? We just take the heads out, put them in this little rotation device. Cool. We don't have to worry about it. And you just like pause for a second, like, hold on, go back here a second. What did you just say? Like, you mean take the heads? Yeah. He's like, yeah, just clip them out. We put them in the box. He said it spins. The ink spins in the machine. He said, and then when you go to run white, just put the heads back in. And that fixes so many of the problems where it's like, you have a customer who does, let's say every quarter, right? They're doing a job that uses white. We're like, I have this customer that we use white ink for, right? We're doing static cling on the windows. We have to print it on white, but we only do it every quarter. So it becomes an issue of like, well, every week we got to just run white. And sometimes we don't have a job. So we're just print white just to print it because we have no choice. It fixes all of that where it's like, okay, say you want to keep that job. And then obviously we would love for you to add it on, right? Start offering other white prints, but it gives you that option where you're just like, well, I already have it anyways, and I can print it every quarter or I can print it every week. I'd really prefer to print it every week. And it gives people a reason to start pushing it anyways. We always tell people like with equipment that you get, you'll find a way to use it once it shows up in your shop. Like if you're like, oh, I have like a couple things we could use it for, be like, we talk about like rollover tables is the perfect example, right? We're like, oh yeah, it seems like it'd be mildly useful. And then they get it and it's super useful. I think that's how white ink would be if on EcoSolvent we don't have the headache of it and we steer people away. But if you gave it to them, I think way more people would use it. And I think Latex gives them that option.
But we always tell customers that if you have a printer that has capabilities, don't limit yourself to what it's doing now. Print with white. Give samples. Show samples.
Yeah.
Give away stuff that has white. That opens up the opportunity of business of saying, can you do this? Yes, I can do that. So
I saw that same thing. I didn't see it when it was in our demo room, the rotation where it goes in that little compartment. And my first thought was like, how come nobody else thought of this? How stupid is everybody else? Like, you think of I can say it, the Vanguard, you have to print that 12 by 12 square every day, print it and save it. So every day we were printing ink on our demo machine.
Warranties.
Like how much money did we go through in ink by not being able to just like, hey, they just put it in this little thing and it rotates. I'm like, everybody else is just stupid at that point. Like,
now I would say like you do have to understand like there's a lot of different. There's spot white, right? Then there's these different flood modes. I mean, you get into some of these bigger overflood, underflood. I mean, it's from a production point of view, it slows it way down.
Yeah,
right? I mean, it's like one of these things. It can do it, but in large volumes, that's another thing. As a shop, you need to rethink. Like, I wouldn't. If somebody says, "Oh, I have this job," it's 100,000 square feet. I'm like, all right, well, wait a minute. I mean, maybe if you're subbing it out, maybe that's a better route. But the capability is amazing. And I think the point I was trying to make earlier when we used to do these latex academies here. Every quarter, we would do latex academies for both channel, and then we would invite end users to come. It always started at, we had a dinner the night before, and we would start at 8 o'clock the next morning, and we would break at 3. And even then, it was definitely for one of them, for an end user, it was like drinking from a fire hose. And we would always feel like there's still a million things I didn't tell you because, I mean, you can tell now, like even when I answer the question, it's like there's just so much stuff. But one of my favorite questions when we used to do Q&A, that we used to get all the time. So what you're trying to say is, look, I want to explain to you, and that's how I used to start the whole thing. That we had this thing that people used to make fun of, but it was called Veggie PDQ. And it was my way of, if you sat next to me on the airplane for an hour and 23-minute flight back home, and you said, well, no, I want you to tell me what I should know about latex. And I would, that in my mind, it was called Veggie PDQ, versatility, ease of use, green. E for economics, so you want to understand the economics of the printer. P for productivity, like instant dry, print speeds, true outputs. D for durability, Q for quality, and then we used to have a little third power, meaning understanding the difference between Gen 3 and Gen 4 or whatever. But the question we always got at the end, and it was my favorite question all the time, is that I'd say, okay, we get to the end. And this is end users, and a lot of and no offense, the ecosystem today is what it is. It's solvent and latex. And now some other vendors have come out with resin, which is the similar technology. And my favorite question was the guy or girl would raise their hand, right? And they call on the guy and he'd say, okay, I got a question for you. If half the you said was true, just half, why would anybody ever buy anything else? And then be like, that's the best. That's the question. We're still trying to find it.
Guys, before we leave today, I just wanted to ask you one quick question, and that is, what is a pirate's favorite application tape? R tape. R tape is the #1 application tape in the United States, and it comes with an RLA, which is a release liner adhesion, meaning it's going to stick to the liner. Even on cut graphics, if you roll it, it's not going to tunnel, wrinkle, or curl, or anything like that. So if you're looking for the best application tape for cut graphics out there, R tape RLA is for you, and you can get it at Wensco.com.
Now, one of the things is, quite honestly, and it's great that we're very happy partner with Wensco, is we do not sell the small latex printers direct. It's all through channel partners. So that's why we would spend so much time, like how I've known this guy, so much time trying to train our channel partners so that it's a story. Latex, I think you have to be able to tell a story. And, so when people ask us that question, we're totally dependent on you guys telling the story, because we're like I said before, no offense to the marketing folks, we're not good. Look at this might tell you how old I am, but I remember there used to be Sign Business Magazine, Sign of the Times Magazine, and you opened every front cover. Who was on the front cover every time you opened the cover? Not HP. It was another print company every time. Right. So people just never saw HP. We didn't run full page ads. We weren't all over the internet. We just weren't. We're really good at trade shows, but we're totally dependent on you guys telling that story. And when people used to ask that question, think about it. If half of what you said is true, why? I mean, and that's, I think to this day, we're still very focused on making sure people can tell the story, because unfortunately I do feel this way after 16 years. There's probably still more misinformation and myths about latex, and it's like they're like pretty simple questions.
Yeah, my entire career at Wensco up until the last 6 months, 8 months was sell against HP.
Yeah.
Like really, that was so Did we provide a lot of that misinformation? Probably. But it goes back to like this quote we have on the board, like some companies make the market, some people steal it. And that's when like the whole realization is like, wait a minute, HP is going a different direction than everybody else. More options, more choices. And that's who we are too. That's who Wensco is too. Like we'd rather make the market. And then when you saw like some of your competitors coming out with machines to mimic yours, and you guys weren't coming out with machines to mimic them, they're like, okay, well, it's obvious which the better machine is.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even though Tyler called me an underthinker last night, was that last night or 2 nights ago? Called me an underthinker.
That was 2 nights ago.
Like, I think about that thing. Yeah. You said, is he an overthinker? And Tyler said, nope, he's an underthinker.
Is that a real, did you just make that term up? That's
Probably, yeah.
Pretty good one.
So, but I think I see that stuff. I look at that stuff. I see that stuff. What's everybody else doing? And when they were copying you, I'm like, okay, we got to like, they're obviously better than them. That's why they're copying them. So, but with that said, we got to wrap this up.
Yeah,
Tyler.
we got to wrap this up. But we have a few questions. First, your favorite meal when you go out, because you travel tons. I know.
Yep.
Where is, if I had to go back, this is the place that I love to go to. This is
a
the
specific
best food.
place?
Yep.
Well, I tried to take you there last night and you wouldn't go.
We tried.
Yeah. Thai ain't going to work.
Not Nam Thai right here in Alpharetta, Georgia. Mind-boggling if you love Thai food. That's whenever if I ever come here, which I do. But anywhere, if I had a last meal, would be a really good linguine and clams. So
okay.
Yeah, we couldn't go to Thai food last night because they didn't have tortillas. And
gotta have tortillas.
And Domingo doesn't eat vegetables.
You don't eat vegetables.
My grandfather raised
tortillas,
me,
everything.
Everything's better in a tortilla.
The last question, because it's 10 o'clock, so you need to get out of here.
Yeah.
So what sets you apart from what do you think sets HP apart from its competitors in the space?
Well, I mean,
I told you how to answer this.
did you? I forget what you said.
We're just better than everybody else.
You know, I would say, and again, it goes back
Say
to
it.
well,
It
goes back to what I said. I think Food Network has done an amazing thing for people in the last 10 years. That it really is, made people. Everybody's a food critic now because of if you watch Food Network on repeat nonstop, or Guy Fieri, right? I think it's amazing. I think that industry is amazing. I really enjoyed talking to Mike about it. HP at its core is an engineering company, and what inspires me is, and we didn't really talk about it. So yeah, we're sitting here in Alpharetta, Georgia. HP is based in Palo Alto, California. We're here in Alpharetta, which is the experience center, but all the R&D really happens. The mothership's in Barcelona, Spain, if you don't know that. And if you're going to FESPA this year, happy to arrange a tour for you. But there's so much passion from the engineering team over there to come up with solutions to problems. So from day one, Gen 1, huge innovation. The heat was a problem. They had to engineer their way around that problem, right? All these little nuggets, the fact that there's an I1 spectrophotometer in their printer, the fact that optical drop detector, the fact that they put 50% more nozzles. So I think what separates us is we're totally vertically integrated. We are an ink company. We invented latex ink. We make latex ink. We innovate on ink. They're innovating right now on Gen 5 as we speak. If we went over there, they're working on Gen 5, right? They innovate on the hardware part of it. So the fact that we're vertically integrated, we control everything. That makes us very different than almost everybody else in this space, who's really just assembling parts and pieces from other people. So the fact that we're in control of the solutions, I think, there's never ever finger pointing, because we built the ink, so we know what the ink does. We built the printhead, so we know what it's supposed to do. So I think that's what sets us apart. And I think there's probably only one other company that could answer that question that way, that they also have the R&D wherewithal to engineer solutions. So I think at its core, that's what's the most amazing thing. Now, what you see here is kind of like, the front of the house, but to go to Barcelona and see the back of the house is truly inspiring, and the passion that the people in the large format business, because that's the other thing I think, in signing off about you guys talk about, now there's thousands and thousands of people in this industry. And again, I've been in the sign and graphics industry for 35 years. I didn't work at HP. I wasn't a PC sales guy. I wasn't a copier sales guy. I've been in sign and graphics for over 34 years. So the folks, those of us at HP that are in large format, we don't rotate. I'm not going to go sell a AI PC in 2 years, right? We're super passionate about large format and about printing. And that's what I think also over in Barcelona, that core team, even though it's this giant company, right? That core team is super passionate about large format and engineering solutions in large format. So I think, that sets us apart. And I think we're also the only, well, that's not true, but the fact that it's based in Barcelona adds a little kick of fun to it too.
I agree.
So what I hear is that we have another podcast in Barcelona.
Yeah.
With John Stevens.
Does the podcast have budget for that?
I'm not sure that's quite in the budget, Tyler.
We'll try and approve it for next year.
I mean, it depends on what sponsorships you can get.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, that's right.
That's true.
HP.
So, anyways, I think that's a great way to wrap it up. So, thanks again. I know we're holding you probably from another
No,
meeting,
yes,
but,
this has been
thank
great.
you.
Appreciate you coming on. And
Absolutely.
And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. And we'll see you in the next episode.
All
So,
right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.